Welcome to my channel, Sunshine Shoulders. I'm Calvin. Thank you so much for stopping by again today. You know, it's going to be a little bit something different today. A comment a couple of weeks ago, he said, "Hey Cal, can you talk about your life before you came to the Philippines?" And I was like, well, hell, I'm 60 years old. That would take all day. And I thought about it, and I said, well, let me just do a timeline of events that shaped my life. The 7 things that happened in my life that brought me to the Philippines. So I'll just talk about those things in a general way because I owe it to my new viewers and subscribers. I was told that you have a whole new audience on YouTube every 6 months. And I do have some old heads that have been hanging around, but for the most part, when I look at my comments, these are people I don't recognize. So I'm going to do it for you. The first thing that happened to me, and these are in order, these are chronological events. When I was 6 years old, my mother and father separated, and it devastated me. We were a close-knit family. I was the baby of the family at that time. We eventually had another little brother, but we were middle class. We were very tight. We did everything together, and when he left, it changed everything. We went from being middle class to being broke. And we were never poor. We were just broke. We didn't have enough money, really, to make it. But we had a lot of love. We had a lot of talent. I come from a talented family. And my mother never quit. You know, I took it out on my mother, though. You know, I would ask, you know, why are we poor? You know, that's a 7-year-old thinking. Now realizing my mother was doing the best she could, the very best she could. And going to the store with food stamps and stuff like that. See, I don't know if a 7-year-old can be depressed, but I was. And it led into the next event. When I was 12 years old, I started drinking. Despite all the warnings of my mother. It was like she had a crystal ball. And everything she warned me about, everything that she told me was going to happen to me if I started drinking, it happened. And despite watching my brothers become damn fools on those from drinking and using pills and stuff like that, I entered into that world. But sometime around, right after I graduated from high school, I had a moment of clarity. And it led to the next event in my life, the third thing. I joined the Navy. I was sitting in college. I signed up for college and was accepted at Jefferson Community College. I was in my real estate class, and I just had a moment of clarity. You know, I had a brother in the Navy already. I said, well, you know what? I want to see the world. You know, I didn't go into the Navy to be some hero. I just wanted to, I looked at it as a job, and I wanted to travel. The Navy gave me my travel bug, but it also gave me something else. It gave me confidence. I went from being this little country bumpkin from Louisville, Kentucky, to a man in a very short time. And after I got out, see, I chose to get out. I didn't retire, which the military was the perfect thing for me at that time in my life, but I didn't know it. I thought I was missing out on something. So I came back home, and I bounced around, eventually moved to Cincinnati with my father, and this led to the next event in my life, fourth event in my life. Was my mother died. My mother died in 1993, September 1993. And my world went dark after that. You know, I only thought I was drinking before, I only thought I was getting high before, but it got really worse, man. But then they say, you know, God looks after babies and fools. My mother died in September 1993, and then the next event happened. I met my wife in October, my first American wife, in October of 1993. Now, I know I crack jokes about her and everything like that, but really this woman was a great influence on my life. I mean, in those dark times that I'm telling you about, she led me around because I couldn't see. But let me go back to when my mother died. I just want to say one thing. I'm going to tell you how pitiful I was. You know, my mother, it did everything for us. She was my biggest supporter and my biggest enabler. And while she laid in that hospital bed, we were all in denial because I'm going to tell you something. My mother went to the hospital on a Tuesday, and that following Thursday, 9 days later, my mother was dead. And they said, hey, you know, they had pulled the plug. We made the decision to pull the plug. And the doctor came in. He said, hey, you know, each of you has a few minutes with your mother. She's not going to last 30 minutes. So it's my turn to go in. And here's a woman who taught me everything I knew, was God to me. And you know, I couldn't say goodbye to my mother. I couldn't even tell my mother I loved her. Thank you, Mama, for everything you did for me. Because I was only a shell of the person that she had raised, man. Drugs and alcohol, it took everything from me by that time. And so I met my wife, the fifth thing that happened to me. And this woman really was an angel because she didn't use drugs and didn't do anything, had no enemies. The worst thing she did was meet me. That's the worst thing she ever did in her life. But she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, because I certainly wouldn't have married somebody like me, not in the condition I was. But not only did she love me, but she held me accountable. And the only person who was harder on me about drinking and drugging was her. I mean, only one harder on me than my mother was her. And it led to the sixth thing, the sixth event in my life. I stopped drinking. May the 13th, 1998. I came back from looking, I rented her car. This is the one, I didn't have a car, but she was working 2 jobs trying to fill the void that I had left. Okay? And she bought a little used station wagon. And you know what I did? All I was capable of doing. I rented the car out to some drug dealers, to some young drug dealers. I did that on occasion. You know, for drugs. Here, give me a few pieces of rock and you can use the car. Well, I was looking for, they never came back. And I got up early because I knew that if my wife got up earlier than me, found out that car wasn't out there, it was going to be worse than what eventually happened. So I got up early, I went looking for it. I looked all day. It was the hottest day. You can look, it was one of the hottest days on record in Louisville, Kentucky. And I never found that car. We never saw that car again. These guys, they drove it till it ran out of gas and they just left it on the side of the road. So when I came home, all my clothes were thrown out on the front yard. They were cut up. And the clothes that I could have salvaged had dope fiend written on it, you know, crackhead, and shoe polish. So I wasn't going to be able to use that anymore. I didn't have any place to go. I burned all my bridges. And then in one last act of defiance, I'm bending down, I'm picking up the remnants of my life, really. And she poured a jar of pickle juice over my head. So I'm stinking, man, bad. I got these same clothes that I had on for a couple of days. You know, and I just fell on my knees and I said, God, please help me, you know. And I got up and I walked over to the homeless shelter, a place I had passed many times before, laughing at people, and never thought in my wildest dreams I would end up there. But they had a recovery program there. They help you get off of drugs and alcohol and, you know, try to put you right back on the track of life. I checked in there, man, and I stayed there for 33 days. I learned everything I needed to know. But while I was in there, something really amazing happened to me. The lights came back on, first of all. Second of all, one of my brothers was in there. He had become my partner in drug activity. And then he disappeared. He got his income tax check and disappeared. I thought, well, hell, maybe he's dead. I didn't know. He was worse than me. But he was in that place, man. And believe it or not, guys, I promise you, this is no lie. I almost walked past my brother. I did not recognize him. He had come there 2 months before me. So I stayed there, and these people, when I got there, I had nothing. All I had was the clothes on my back. They were wet with pickle juice. I had an afro at the time. I didn't have a comb. You know what? I was combing my hair with a fork. There was a guy, his name was Orlando. He eventually died. He went back out getting high and stuff. He eventually died. But he let me use his pick. But these guys gave me socks, underwear, shoes. But most of all, they gave me unconditional love. After I had been there for about a week, somebody tapped me on my shoulder and I turned around. There was a guy that I vaguely knew out in the streets. And he had his hand extended. He had $2. I said, what's this for? He said, you look like you could use $2. Well, how did he know that $2 was what I needed the most in this world, man? Everybody had shut me out of their lives. Nobody was answering the phone. Nobody was answering the door. That was what I needed most in my life. It was the first time in a long time, several weeks, that anybody even pretended as if they cared, man. And man, I broke down. I cried. And I want to tell you, I cried like a baby, but I didn't. I cried like a man that day. 35 years of shame, guilt, and remorse came pouring out, and I looked to him with tears in my eyes. I said, man, what can I ever do to pay you back? He said, do it for somebody else. And I've been doing it ever since. That's where I got that. When we help other people, we help ourselves. That's where I got it, in that homeless shelter in Louisville, Kentucky. But I've been doing it ever since. The light remained on. I just celebrated 25 years of sobriety. But my marriage didn't last. We went like this. Unfortunately, my wife was a caretaker. And she loved it when I was struggling because she loved to take care of me. She had control of me. But when I stopped drinking and I resumed my place in the household, my rightful place, she was uncomfortable with it. And we split up. She thought that I didn't need her anymore, when in fact, I needed her more than ever. But had I not met Belinda, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I give her a whole lot of credit, guys. I make jokes and but really, when my mother died, she became my mother too. And this is when all the miracles started happening in my life, man. I can only call them miracles because I looked the definition up. It's just something that's inexplicable. You can't explain it. I started a little not a janitorial service. I did that back in Cincinnati, but I started a little home-based business. I was selling clothes, jewelry, anything I could get my hands on to make a small profit. And I ran into a guy. I'd had some expensive suits. He wore the same size. I had like 4 or 5. I'm talking about these expensive suits. I got them through a liquidation. They were like $1,500. He bought all of them. I sold them for like $150, $160 a piece. I'd only paid like $20 a piece for them. But we were talking. He said, man, if you ever thought about going into the insurance business? He said, because you would make a great insurance agent. And I said, no, man. At that time, in my mind, insurance business had a bad reputation. I said, I'm not fooling with that. He said, okay, and he gave me his card. He said, if you ever change your mind, let me know. He said, I know you'll be successful. But the next day I see him, he has this convertible Benz. I mean, he pulls out a stack of $100 bills. I promise you it was this thick, guys. And he convinced me, man. Even though I had no business being an insurance agent, I was shy, I was bashful. I didn't even know how to tie a tie. I didn't even own a tie. I didn't even own a suit of clothes that would be decent enough for me to go to somebody's house to sell insurance. But he helped me get my license, and the rest was really history, man. The rest was really history. I just got tired of struggling, man. I wanted a new life. The light had come back on in that homeless shelter, and I wanted to live. You know, I wanted to be the best that I could possibly be. I started reading books by Napoleon Hill, Augmendino, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, W. Clement Stone, and I started putting those principles in action, man. And within 5 years, don't you know that I own my own insurance agency? I was at the top of the insurance business, okay? Listen to this. I had an FMO contract. If you know anything about insurance and being an independent agent, you can't go any higher than that. This is when the universe started working in my life. I was only trying to call to find out when the certification was, because in Medicare Advantage, you have to certify every year. And Moments with Mitch can vouch for that. Well, I ended up calling the wrong number. And instead of getting certification, I got the national broker representative. His name was Tom Edgerton. And we started talking. He said, you know, we're coming to Kentucky, and I could use another FMO. And when he found out my knowledge about Medicare Advantage, he said, hey, I'm going to give that contract to you, but you have to have 20 agents to qualify. I didn't have one, but what I did have was 20 people that I had been helping for over 3 years without getting any override, anything. See, I was helping other people, man, for the sake of helping other people. And in that event, I helped myself, because I went back to those people and I said, hey, look, man, I called in my favors. And they all came up underneath me, man. And I went from waking up on Christmas, May 1997, in a crack house, penniless. I didn't have any money. Wasn't even welcome in my own home. Hadn't bought my kids anything for Christmas. And about 8 years after that, I had my own insurance agency, man. It's basically my story. And then I saw a video on YouTube called Thoughts Become Things by Mike Dooley. Look it up, guys. It changed my life. Were it not for that video, I wouldn't be sitting here today. He told me to make a scrapbook. Put in that scrapbook everywhere you want to go, the house you want to live in, the car you want to drive, everything about your dreamed of life, put it in there and look at it. And after 2 or 3 weeks, nothing happened. After about 6 weeks, 6 months, nothing happened. But then I picked up the phone to find out when certification was, and I got Tom Edgerton. And I started earning money that I never even dreamed about. And what I decided to do, I said, I'm going to the Philippines. Because by this time, my marriage was gone. And I said, just give me $20,000. And I took $20,000. I left her everything. The brand new convertible, the brand new van, the 3,700 square foot house. I left everything. Just give me the $20,000. I'm going to travel around the world. Well, I came to the Philippines. And I never went anywhere else. So there you have it, man. And when I got here the first time, I came by myself. I didn't know what I was going to find. I did everything wrong. But the people here, man, the atmosphere here, the environment here, it changed me. And I was only here for 2 weeks. And I filed that away in my mind. And I went back to the rat race. I jumped back on the hamster wheel. Eventually got married. But by the time I came here, December the 5th, 2018, I was shot, man. I was anxious. I was depressed. All the success I had was gone. But I knew there was a place I could come to heal, to get some help. It was the Philippines. And I made that decision to come. You know, sadly, my marriage didn't last. When she got back home, she was from the Philippines, she realized that her life was in America. And it's one of the reasons I married her over there. I didn't want to hold her back. But I came here, man. I was very mediocre when I crawled into the Philippines. But today I've got a magnificent life. And that's what I try to show you guys. That's why I want to come through my vlogs. See, I'm evolving, man. My videos are getting ready to go in a whole different direction, guys. I'm just letting you know. Because people know I'm in the Philippines. I've talked about just about everything you could talk about the Philippines. Now it's about helping people. And that's what I'm going to start doing. I've got a base, you know, because the guy said, you know, Cal, he said, I see that your reach is going to be broader. And me and Merlin was talking about this last night. I said, yeah. I said, that's the universe telling me. I said, because he's the third guy that's told me that. But if all I'm going to talk about is the Philippines, I'm only going to reach the people who are interested in the Philippines. So I'm evolving, guys. I'm changing. You can't stand still in life, man. If you do, you're going to die. You're going to stagnate and you're going to die. So there you have it, man. Those things that shaped my life. The reason I'm sitting here today. But it took some hard work. It took some dreaming. Remember on the live stream, the minute you decide you're going to change your life, you want something better, here come the problems. Here come the obstacles. Here comes the fear, the doubt, the opposition. We got to stand pat, guys. And then you're going to live a life that I never even dreamed of living this good. It's better than anything I ever dreamed. So thank y'all so much for stopping by. Wherever you are in the world today, right now, there's somebody worse off than you. Help them if you can. It doesn't always have to be money. Not a day goes by that I don't help somebody over here in the Philippines every single day. I will get up out of my bed if I forget to help somebody. And I'll go out. And the first person I see, I'll give them something to eat, something to drink, a few dollars, a few pesos, man. Because if I don't know anything else, I know this one thing for sure. We help other people, we help ourselves. Take care, stay safe, stay out of trouble. I'll see you next time.